serve with heart and mind. One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
I promise you that this lecture series, this edition, will be mind-blowing. Let me just use that word, mind-blowing. I'm sure you must have been asking most of our followers on Twitter and Facebook, you must have been asking who are we bringing, and here we are not bringing just anybody. This time we brought someone who will actually speak to you the way you are meant to be taught. We brought an intellectual, versatile, and an erudite speaker. That's in person of Honorable Femi Bajabiamila. I don't take up the time. I want to go into the whole thing, but I'm very sure that you, at the end of it all, you will be so enlightened, and you have a rethink about Oyo State in general. So once again, I say thank you and God bless you.
Honorable Femi Bajabiamila was born in 1962, and he's a lawyer, a politician, member of the Action Congress of Nigeria, and minority House of Representatives. He attended Igbobi College in Yaba, Lagos, King William's College on the Isle of Man, United Kingdom, University of Lagos, Nigeria, and the John Marshall Law School in Chicago, Illinois. Honorable Femi Bajabiamila was elected in the House in 2003 and re-elected in 2007, and he represents the Surulere 1 constituency of Lagos in the House of Representatives. Please join me in welcoming our speaker for today, Honorable Femi Bajabiamila.
So the title for today is lecture stroke paper is Engaging Youthful Minds in the National Re-Engineering Process. Engaging Youthful Minds in the National Re-Engineering Process. Well, I think for this paper, for it to have any meaning at all, we must first look at ourselves eyeball to eyeball and ask some very pertinent questions. Does our republic, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, need any engineering? That's the first question we need to ask. Because it doesn't need any engineering, and the engineering and the structure is okay as it is, then of course it's going to be a wasteful exercise for you also to start talking about re-engineering and how the youth can participate in that engineering. So in other words, is there anything wrong with the country as it is today, both in its structure, its moral firmament, its ideology, and its attitude? Is there something wrong with us as a people? Are we standing strong as a nation politically, economically, and socially? If we are able to answer these questions in the negative, and I think the answer or answers are pretty obvious, then and only then can we move on to the second leg of the topic of this paper. How do we engage the youth in that process of re-engineering? You have to first of all diagnose the problem before you look for its treatment and how to solve it. Now, having identified that Nigeria needs some serious reform, it becomes important to determine what role, if any, the youth have to play in that reform. Have they been sufficiently engaged before now? And if they have not, why have they not been sufficiently engaged? If we want to talk about engaging the youth, we must agree that there needs to be a radical change in mindset and perception of what or who the youth is. People have different interpretations of youth. That's why sometimes you see a party and the youth leader is almost 60 years old. You see a party, the youth leader is in his 50s. So we need to have different perceptions, different interpretation and definition of youth. Many of the older folk look at the youth in a condescending manner as little boys and girls, or at best children, and therein lies one of the biggest problems. The problem of perception. If I see you as a child, then by nature, I believe you are limited physically, mentally, and in terms of your life experience. I automatically believe and I know better than you. I can only teach you and not learn from you. Such myopic and parochial attitude not only causes friction, but shuts out a large constituency that can otherwise be productive in national development. In my mind, the youth are actually adults. Indeed, many in other climes and in other countries describe the youth as young adults. That is my own perception and my own interpretation and definition of the youth. The National Youth Policy describes the age window for the youth as 18 to 35. Though this is subjective and many other scholars and practitioners may differ, for the purpose of this paper, we will stay within that bracket. Now, surely a young man or woman of 28 years old who is old enough to have his own family cannot be described as a child. To warrant an older adult with an age complex, refer to him condescendingly as such. These are men and women who, in more advanced countries, sit on top of blue chip companies, are high net worth entrepreneurs, and are considered as partners in progress. How many times in Nigeria do we hear of a young man of 30 being referred to as a child? Or in local parlance, you hear an older person say of a young man, "Omode shape." This mindset needs a radical change for us to move forward. The youth in this country, as in other countries, are necessary and integral part of the growth and development of any nation. And the relationship between the youth and the adults must be mutually beneficial and symbiotic. Now let me warn that the capacity of this age bracket are immense and can be unleashed for good or for bad. It all depends on what option the forerunners, that is the adults, decide to take. Many wonder what I mean by for good, or rather for bad. Now listen, let's have a very frank discussion. Most of the revolutions we have learned from history were started by young men who were idealized and dissatisfied with the status quo. From Fidel Castro to Che Guevara to Thomas Sankara to the Arab Spring, and more recently to Syria and coming back home. Nzegu, Ojukwu of blessed memory, and even the Boko Haram crisis. These are all things that were precipitated or initiated or led by young men and women. That shows the capacity that is inherent in a young man, full of energy, full of ideas, of being shut down. For every thesis and antithesis, there is a synthesis. We all know this saying about what happens to those who fail to learn from history. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not advocating a revolution on these lines, not at all. I only attempt to make a point of what will happen when the youth are not sufficiently engaged in any setting. Without even going into revolutions, part of the negative consequence of not engaging the youth is found in crimes such as robbery, 419, kidnapping, and so on. One may think the connection between these crimes and youth inertia is tenuous. It is actually real. As is often said, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. If we don't engage the youth will engage themselves. We saw this during the fuel subsidy crisis, which showed the potential of what can be unleashed if the youth are not engaged. For many, that was a dress rehearsal. As stated earlier, the youth also have the potential to do good and effect positive change. Several platforms come to mind. You've heard of the Leap Africa, Arise Network, Slum to School Initiative, the Nigerian Youth Movement, which was formed way back in 1936 by J.C. One,